Human respiratory system. All living organisms consume nutrients to fulfill their energy needs. This energy is produced in the cells using the food we eat and the oxygen we inhale. The process of releasing energy using these nutrients is accomplished through a defined system present in our body known as respiratory system. The system is located in the thorax region of our body. With the help of this system, the cells are able to obtain the energy needed for all life processes. Efforts to release the energy by this system is broken down into different stages: breathing, exchange of gases, and cellular respiration. The difference between breathing and cellular respiration is that breathing is a process of taking in oxygen and expelling carbon dioxide. Or we may say, breathing is the physical act of inhaling and exhaling. Through breathing, we are able to move air in and out of the lungs. Once the gases are exchanged, breathing also serves the purpose of removing a waste gas like carbon dioxide. Cellular respiration is the sum of chemical reactions that happens in the cells using the inhaled oxygen and glucose obtained as nutrients, resulting in the release of energy. Overall, respiration is the sum total of all physical processes and chemical reactions to produce energy using inhaled oxygen. The human respiratory system consists of lungs and tubes associated with the lungs. It is supported by the diaphragm. The respiratory tract starts with the nostrils, which lead into nasal cavity. The nasal cavity is lined with the epithelial tissue containing blood vessels that help in warming up the air and secretes mucus, which further filters the air. The nasal cavity meets the pharynx at the back of the nose and mouth. The pharynx is also called the throat. From here, the passage bifurcates into the trachea and esophagus. The trachea is also known as the windpipe. As we studied in the digestive system, the epiglottis closes off the trachea when we swallow. Below the epiglottis is the larynx or voice box. The larynx is lined by two vocal cords that stretch across it. The vocal cords vibrate to produce sounds which result in speech. The trachea or windpipe is made up of muscles and elastic fibers with rings of cartilage. The cartilage prevents the tube of the trachea from collapsing. The trachea divides itself in two tubes, each known as bronchus, one entering the left and the other entering the right lung. The lungs are made up of spongy elastic tissues that allow them to inflate and deflate without losing the shape. We have two lungs, with the left being divided into two lobes and the right into three lobes. The lungs are covered by two-layered serous sac called pleura, parietal pleuron and visceral pleuron. The fluid filling the spaces is called pleural fluid. It provides frictionless movement to the lungs apart from protecting them from mechanical shock. Once inside the lungs, the bronchi split in several ways, forming smaller branches. Further divisions of the bronchi eventually lead to tiny tubes called bronchioles. Bronchioles lead to tiny air sacs known as alveoli. Bronchioles lead to tiny air sacs known as alveoli through alveolar ducts. The alveoli are richly supplied with blood capillaries. The alveolar duct deposits the air in the thin-walled alveoli or alveolar sacs. Gaseous exchange takes place in blood flowing through these capillaries. Respiration starts with breathing. Breathing makes inhalation and exhalation possible. The muscular diaphragm separates the thoracic cavity from the abdominal cavity. As the diaphragm contracts and relaxes, breathing takes place. When our diaphragm moves down, we breathe in. Similarly, when the diaphragm moves up, we breathe out. The work of breathing is done by the diaphragm and the muscles present between the ribs. A set of muscles present between the ribs acts together to change the size of the chest cavity. The muscles attached to our ribs encircle the lungs and the chest cavity. Let us begin with inhalation. During the intake of air, these muscles raise the lower ribs up and out, thus increasing the dimensions of the thorax. Air is drawn into the lungs as a result of the combined expansion of the rib cage. As the diaphragm contracts, it increases the length and diameter of the chest cavity and thus expands the lungs. During exhalation, the muscles present between the ribs bring them down and in, thus decreasing the chest volume. The diaphragm rises, pulls the rib cage further inwards and hence decreasing the volume of the lungs. All this creates high pressure in the lungs, hence air is pushed out of the lungs. The diaphragm and the ribs, with the muscles present between the ribs, work together to help you breathe. The goal of breathing is to deliver oxygen to the body and to take away carbon dioxide. Thus, breathing consists of two processes: inhalation and exhalation. Breathing is an involuntary action, but its rate is controlled by the respiratory center in the brain. Under normal conditions, the rate of breathing is 15 to 18 times per minute. During vigorous exercise, the demand for oxygen increases the rate by about 20 to 25 times per minute. By now, we know that breathing is the first stage in respiration. If we follow the breathed-in air that enters the nasal cavity through nostrils, cilia lining the nasal cavity move back and forth, blocking the dirt that comes in with the air. From here, the air enters the trachea, which is also known as the windpipe. After passing through bronchi and bronchioles, the air reaches alveoli. At the alveoli, the second part of respiration, the exchange of gases takes place. Each alveolar sac is surrounded by blood capillaries. Gaseous exchange occurs between the air that reaches the alveoli and the surrounding blood capillaries. Oxygen diffuses across the alveolar wall and enters the bloodstream, while carbon dioxide diffuses from the blood to the alveoli. Once in the bloodstream, oxygen gets picked up by the hemoglobin present in red blood cells. Due to the difference in concentration, the gases get exchanged between alveoli and the blood passing through the capillaries. Carbon dioxide that reaches into the alveoli is breathed out of the body through the same route along with the other constituents of air. The percentage of carbon dioxide in the inhaled air is 0.4% and exhaled air is 4%. The most common problem of the respiratory system are asthma, bronchitis, and emphysema. Asthma is a lung disease that causes tubes present in the respiratory system to become tightened and narrow. It is often triggered by irritants in the air such as cigarette smoke, chemicals, pollen grains, etc. The lining of the bronchial tubes swell, causing the airwaves to narrow and reducing the flow of air in and out of the lungs. Bronchitis, a common illness where the membranes lining of the larger bronchial tubes become inflamed and an excessive amount of mucus is produced. The person develops a bad cough and tries to get rid of the mucus. Cigarette smoking is a major cause of chronic bronchitis in teens. Long-term smoking often causes emphysema, and although it is rarely seen in kids and teens, but its roots develop in young age over the years of smoking. In emphysema, the lungs produce an excessive amount of mucus and the alveoli become damaged. It becomes difficult to breathe and enough oxygen does not reach into the blood.